It's no secret that TRP has been shot to the top of everyone's shortlist when it comes to high performance brakes with their DHR EVOs. They've gotten positive reviews all over the internet, but I feel like very few people are talking about the DHR EVO's little brother, the Trail EVO brakes. So today, we're going to finally review them after I've been riding them for a couple months, and I've gone to Mountain Creek Bike Park, done some technical rock slabs in New York, and just finished my Virginia trip where I got some huge descents in. My brake of choice for the last several years has been a pair of Code Rs, and I genuinely like them for the most part, but I really did not keep up with the maintenance, and eventually they kind of became unserviceable, which admittedly is my fault. However, I was kind of feeling like I want to take a chance with TRP with their recent popularity, and personally I just don't really love the feel of Shimano brakes, so that led me to the Trail EVO brakes. I'd love to think that I'm such an aggressive rider that I need DHR EVO brakes on my 120mm trail bike, but I really couldn't convince myself of that, and when they're pushing $270 to $300 a pair, I decided I'd be better off with the Trail EVOs. And really, I think that this might be the kind of brake that most people should be looking at when it comes to moderately aggressive trail riding. The Trail EVO brakes retail for $225, but I've seen them on sale for about $210 on some of the smaller online retailers. And they have some pretty similar features to the Code Rs, like the toolless adjustable lever reach, but they use mineral oil instead of DOT fluid. However, the Trail EVOs use a 2.3mm thick rotor, which the SRAM stuff hasn't really moved on to yet. Although I decided to stick with my SRAM HS2 rotors that are 2mm thick with the new Trail EVO brakes, which isn't quite how you're supposed to set them up. We'll go into the setup in a moment, but for the most part they worked out well, and I'm glad that I'm still being able to use those rotors. For a quick comparison, the old Code Rs are like $170 now. The Code Bronze Stealth are $185, and now the Code Silver Stealth with contact adjust is $265. So the Trail EVOs kind of slot in the middle of the bronze and the silver. I would argue that probably the Trail EVOs are better than the bronze, but they don't have the contact adjust like the silvers. So you're kind of splitting hairs there. Depends if you really care about that contact adjust, but then you get into the territory of the DHR EVOs that are $270 to $300. Personally, I don't really like how the Code Stealth now route the cable to be very close to the handlebar. I just don't really think it looks any better. In fact, I think it looks worse. And for me, I'm just kind of sick of the DOT fluid, and I really want to transfer over to the mineral oil to hopefully keep the bleed process a bit cleaner, safer for your skin, and I'd be more likely to service it. At least that's what my thought process is. Anyway, you probably want to know how well these brakes set up, so let's get into that. Of course, these brakes do not interface with the SRAM matchmaker system out of the box, but actually you can buy different matchmaking kinds of adapters from their website. They run about $20, and they have Shimano, SRAM, and TRP when their drivetrain comes out, but I actually didn't opt for any of that out the box. So I did have to do some shuffling on my handlebar, and for the most part, it worked out all right. My dropper lever kind of rubs against the lever here and there. I've got a pretty cheap dropper lever, so it gets a little stuck just from wiggling around a little bit, so probably gonna change that out pretty soon. These lines do come filled with fluid from the factory, and they're nicely plugged, so when I got to the bike shop and I cut the lines, put it all together, I lost like zero fluid, and the bite point was perfect right after I plugged it in. And now we get on to the bed-in process. And oh boy, this was a nightmare. My goodness, these were some of the most annoying brake pads I've ever experienced. These things were honking like crazy, but just on the front brake. My rear brake was mostly fine with just a few chirps here and there. I mean, just look at how glazed that is. These were after freshly cleaning them, sandpaper, alcohol on the rotors and the pads, and just in seconds completely glazed up. So pretty frustrating, but I decided I wouldn't mess around with buying new rotors and trying to make these pads work, and I still have plenty of life in these SRAM HS2 rotors, so I went for the MTX Red Label race pads. Everyone was saying that these work well with the TRP stuff. Pretty sure a lot of Shimano brake pads actually work as well. which would be more readily available, but I went kind of extra and I ordered these from some bike shop in Arizona, and they came pretty quickly, and luckily put them on the front brake and I've had no issues since. Left the blue ones on the rear brake. For some reason that has stayed quiet. If it gives me issues, I've got this extra pad, or we're just going to run it as is and see what happens. Now that the brakes are finally quiet, I can talk about the actual performance of them, and so far I've been very happy. The one thing with the lever blades of these TRPs, they definitely have a more hooked shape than the SRAM Code Rs, and they've got little dimples on the lever blade itself, so it really makes for a more tactile feel whether you have gloves on or not, which I really like. When it comes to comparing the codes to the EVOs to Shimano stuff, I would say modulation wise, like SRAM is very good with the modulation, but it kind of leaves the bite point feeling a little spongy at times. Then the Trail EVOs are kind of here, where it's a very solid bite point, and then like Shimano's are right here. Personally, the Shimano's are a little bit too on-off feeling for me, and I don't really like the lever ergonomics of their high-end brakes. So the TRPs are just a little step forward in that middle range of modulation versus bite point, and for me, it's been working out very well. And I haven't experienced any kind of fading. You know, like I said, I went to Virginia, did a 2,000 plus foot descent, didn't feel any fading. Been doing some bike park runs at Mountain Creek, at Bryce Bike Park, felt really good the whole time. But keep in mind, I'm like 150 pounds with my riding gear on, so I'm not really too heavy of a rider, and even though I'd love to think I'm just so steezy, I mean, I'm not that crazy of a rider either, and for most of the riding I do on Long Island, where it's very flat, these are plenty of brakes for me. And hopefully, given that they're mineral oil, I'll be much more inclined to service them and keep them feeling really solid with that bite point, and hopefully they'll last me a long time, and I intend to keep running them for a long time. So hopefully you found this video informative, and let me know if you've been trying out TRP stuff lately, whether they're the DHRs, the Trail, or even the slate brakes. So with that being said, hope you enjoyed watching this video, and remember, stay venturing, my friends.